idea?
An idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
But there you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
In episode 1, we covered the first round of the rookie draft. Here in episode 2, we're going to cover the rest of the draft. We're going to start off the top, going pick by pick through round 2. And then after that, we're going to jump around a little bit, highlighting some different picks and some different moves made by the managers. So the start of round 2, we have Sam Laporta, tight end for Detroit out of Iowa, going to Big Biscuits. Big had traded his 2.02 to Georgia Mike, who originally had the 201, so he could move up and get his guy at the start of the round here. What do you think of Laporta?
Yeah, speaking about being from Iowa, he was Iowa. This guy carried the entire offense. It's not often you see a tight end be the focal point for an entire offense, especially at the college level. But that's what Sammy Ballgame did. And Big really wanted him. He swapped picks, gave Georgia Mike a little bit of grease to flip picks with him to make sure he could get Laporta. And I think it was a smart move. I mean, in this league, we've covered it. There are not enough good tight ends to go around, so you need to go and get them when you have a chance. They're not going to be cheaper than when they are during the draft. It's very difficult to trade for tight ends because nobody in this league feels like they have a surplus of extra tight ends to just give away. This is the best time to get them.
Yep, and you got to go up and get your guy when you see him on the board as well.
Yep, and he's already pretty much cemented himself as the tight end 1 in Detroit. And there aren't a ton of weapons. It's a good offense, or it was efficient offense last year. But outside of Amon-Ra, I mean, we're going to get J-Mo eventually, allegedly. But there's not a whole lot of weapons behind that, besides the running backs. So they're going to need somebody to catch passes. Could very well be Laporta.
The constant refrain of fantasy managers. Someone has to catch the ball. All right, so after that, we have the pick that Big traded away, and Georgia Mike takes another tight end, Michael Mayer, tight end with Las Vegas. Still not used to saying Las Vegas, out of Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on Michael Mayer?
So yeah, Mayer was another guy where essentially the offense ran through him. I mean, he was the consensus tight end 1 probably coming into the draft before Kincaid ended up going in the first round. But Mayer didn't drop very far. I mean, he went right at the top of the second round. So it's another, again, quality tight end prospect in a fairly deep tight end class. And these guys are going to get pushed up in our league just based on our settings and the lack of quality tight end starters.
Yeah, Mayer's another one where you said Laporta's already looked like he's got the job locked up. It looks like Mayer's probably going to be the starter for the team as long as he's healthy. I know he's been dealing with a couple of injury issues in the preseason.
Yeah, they already cut O.J. Howard. I mean, they had signed Hooper and Howard in the offseason, and it doesn't look like they're going to ease Mayer in if they've already cut Howard.
Yeah. So after Mayer, we go pick 2.03, which is your first selection and only selection.
Hey, I'm on the board. I'm on the board. This is the first pick I've made since the league started. First and only.
Well, it had to happen sooner or later. I'm sorry that you had to burst your bubble eventually, but Charbonnet looks like a pretty good prospect.
Had to have me some charbs. I can't contain my excitement.
No, we're keeping all this. Everybody is going to listen to you continuously get excited about Charbonnet, which is going to make it all the more devastating when you trade him away week 2.
Week 2, he's not making it to the start of the season. Are you kidding me? I'm putting trade offers out today.
So what made you decide to finally actually make a selection?
I like Charbs. I had a first round grade on him, and when he kept falling in the second because everyone took tight ends, I talked to Rugg and I flipped him Deontay Johnson, who I like and didn't really want to trade, but made sense for me to give him up. Made sense for him. He got Deontay Foreman, who very well may produce the same as Charbonnet this year, if not better, and Deontay Johnson basically for free. So yeah, it was probably a smart deal for him.
Yeah, I mean, adding two, maybe not starter level, but two guys who are going to make the roster and produce points, always a good decision.
Yeah, especially in a deep best ball. You want as many contributors as you can get.
Exactly. You need the roster depth. And speaking of all the tight ends getting drafted, still don't know how to say the last name. Is it Schoon or Schoon?
Shoemaker.
Luke Schoonmaker. Going 2.04 to Flinch. Adding to, he already picked Kincaid in the first round. It's going back-to-back tight ends.
Yeah, like I said last week, he told me in the DMs, he said, I am going to hammer tight ends in this draft. And again, he did not disappoint.
And at pick 2.05, Criddle gets Jonathan Mingo, who went in the second round of the NFL draft. It's the first wide receiver we've seen in the second round here. How do you feel about Mingo?
Yeah, I mean, Mingo's a big, athletic. He wasn't highly productive in the SEC. He had some injury and teammate concerns. I mean, he was a top 35 or so in the NFL draft, early second. You're playing the percentages with that. Those are generally the guys that profile as useful NFL players. So it was a smart pick.
Now, moving right along, we have Jalen Hyatt going 2.06 to big, his second pick of this round, and sixth overall pick.
And this was a true, as Big likes to say, the ADP. Big is going to get his guys. He does not care where they're quote-unquote supposed to be drafted. If he wants them, he's going to get them. And he loves him some Jalen Hyatt. I get it. I mean, the guy won the Biletnikoff. He was the best receiver in college last year. It might be a quirky Tennessee offense. He was uber productive, and he'll find a role. These kind of vertical slot guys are very useful in NFL terms. We'll see if it translates to fantasy success. But the good news is this is a best ball. I mean, he can catch one pass and get in your lineup. He doesn't need to get 150 targets a year to be useful.
Yeah, and ending up in New York is a pretty good landing spot in terms of availability of snaps at the wide receiver position. So if he shows anything, he should see the field pretty early.
Yeah, your team added 6,000 slot receivers this offseason. Yes. We'll see if any of them are any good, but there's certainly a lot of bodies there. I don't know if any of them present huge obstacles for playing time, but there's certainly a lot of options there in the slot.
We'll see how it goes. Pick 2.07, we have the first pick of this year for Judd, and he takes Roschon Johnson, running back for Chicago. One of the trio of potential starters there. Along with the aforementioned Deonta Foreman and your boy, Khalil Herbert.
Yep, notorious Texas fan, Judd. Clearly going with the Texas guy here in Roschon. It's a quality pick. He's going to find himself in a rotation. He's already the best pass blocker and receiver of that group of backs, so he's going to play. I mean, we saw the highlight from last week of him carrying 6 guys. So he'll find himself onto a field. He knows how to endear himself to a coaching staff. Does all the little things right. There's only a matter of time before he becomes impactful in that backfield.
At pick 2.08, we have Rashee Rice, wide receiver for Kansas City, going to Flinch. There's another depth chart which has some uncertainty on it at the position. So Rice joins in with, it was a second rounder this year, joins in with a second rounder last year from Moore, the oft-injured Kadarius Toney. Who knows what's happening in that wide receiver room?
Yeah, it can't hurt to take a shot on a guy that's tied to Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yep. I think that was the same line of thought that pushed Sky Moore up boards last year into the back of the first round.
Yeah, the difference was he got Rashee Rice at the end of the second round, so much better value this year.
Much better value on that one. Pick 2.09, we have Luke Musgrave getting selected by Big using a pick he acquired from me in a trade. Big selects his second tight end of the round and his 6th player of the draft. Musgrave, tight end from Green Bay, one of 2 that they selected in this year's rookie draft. What do you think about Musgrave?
Yeah, I really like Musgrave. There wasn't a ton of tape because he was constantly injured, but the little tape he had, he really flashed. And then he showed up at the Senior Bowl. He had a great combine. I mean, he looks the part. He's a big, fast, athletic tight end. That's really what you're looking for at the position. And he certainly produced in the small opportunities he had. So another good pick by Big. I like the value here, considering how far all the other tight ends got pushed up. Musgrave was picked in the same range as Laporta and Mayer and these other guys, but he kind of lingered towards the end of the second round.
All right, we're on to pick 210, and this seems like a good spot to recap. In the second round, we had 4 tight ends, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and 1 Hendon Hooker drafted. Hendon Hooker going 210 to flinch. The only quarterback that went in the second or third round, behind Will Levis, ahead of Clayton Tune getting drafted in the fourth. What do you think about Hooker?
Yeah, the quarterbacks this year, really, there was the upper tier guys, the top 3 that went early in the NFL draft, and then Levis that just missed, and then you kind of had Hooker in that middle tier.
Yeah, the dead zone.
Everybody else, all the late round quarterbacks kind of went towards the end. So Hooker's a very interesting prospect. He's on the older side. He's coming off an ACL. He played in that quirky offense with Jalen Hyatt, where you don't know how much of this is really going to translate. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think we're going to see him this year. I expect them to kind of redshirt him coming off the ACL and the weird offense that they run. It may take him some time to adjust. In a Superflex league, we've seen guys carry value, even, middling picks. If they start at any point, they're going to have value. We're seeing it now with guys like Howell and Ritter and guys that were, later picks.
Yeah, even a project quarterback is worth a flyer. All right, pick 211. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but Big Biscuit's back on the clock. Selects Devon A-Chain, running back with Miami, the fastest man alive at 211. What do you think?
And Big loves his second round picks. And actually, this was another good value. I know Big likes to say ADP, but A-Chain went in the late first in a lot of places. So this is a really good pick at the end of the second, especially now that we know that Dalvin Cook's not going to sign there. Now it looks even better. And I like him because I briefly traded for him.
Very briefly, as with all running backs you acquire. That depth chart is a little crowded in Miami, but who knows how they're going to use it, and there should be enough work to go around for at least everyone to be relevant for our league.
Yeah, especially considering that it's crowded with bodies, and most of them can't stay healthy very long.
Yeah.
So there will be opportunity at some point.
Well, the big knock on A-Chain was his size, and a guy that size you don't want getting a ton of work anyway. So if he gets stuck at 10 touches a game, that might be a good thing for his long-term health.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure the size argument is a big deal. I mean, we saw him succeed in the SEC, and he wasn't a gadget guy. He was a workhorse. I mean, he was between the tackles. For me on film, he was one of the best running backs between the tackles in this class. He wasn't a huge tackle breaker, but he certainly didn't have any problems picking up tough yards. I'm not overly worried with his size, especially now that he's not doing track full time. He can finally put on some weight.
Pick 212 to close out the second round. We had your boy Marvin Mims getting selected by Criddle with a pick acquired from JMC. I know that you tried to trade back up into the end of the second a couple different times to get Mims, and obviously you were unsuccessful, but Criddle gets the man at the end. What do you think?
I tried desperately to get this pick from Criddle. I tried desperately. I really wanted Marvin Mims. I love Marvin Mims. I love what I saw on tape, all the advanced stats. He was an analytic darling. This guy was the most prolific high school receiver in history. And he was highly productive in college. I mean, the profile was great. I mean, the landing spot's not ideal with Judy and Sutton there, but I think he's a guy that will carve out a role. So it was another pick that I really liked.
Yeah. And you can finally let go Denzel now that you have Marvin in the league.
There's a new Mims in town, baby.
That brings us to the end of round 2. For rounds 3, 4, and 5, we're not going to go pick by pick because, frankly, the hit rates on picks for those rounds are so low. We do want to highlight a few things. In the beginning of round 3, we had the first selection from Melcrisp at 3.02, selecting Tank Bigsby, the running back for Jacksonville, who's actually been getting a little bit of hype in camp.
Yeah, this was a pick he got from me. Not surprising. Pretty much all of the picks in this draft were from me at some point. But yeah, this was another quality pick. I mean, this is the spot, this kind of third, fourth, fifth round. This is where you want to just load up on running backs because, like you said, the hit rates aren't great at this point of the draft. The only spot where there's really a chance of early production is at the running back, because any running back on a 53 can come into value at any point in the draft. That's just how it works at the running back position. So, I mean, good pick. Tank profiled as a 3-down back, landed in a good spot. There's not a ton of competition. Hasty, D'Ernest Johnson, Snoop Connor, they took last year, guys like that. Tank could easily surpass and kind of be the 1B to ETN's 1A.
Mel actually made 3 selections in this round after not having any in the first 3. He got Tucker at 3.05 and Kraft at 3.12. And like you said, this is where you want to hammer running backs. We had 7 running backs selected in the 3rd round. That's, more than half of the selections there.
Just keep taking running back shots. Mel's one of the guys that believes in that philosophy where at this point in the draft, just taking shots on running back and hope that they fall into value at some point through depth chart maneuvers. Yeah,
and taking shots on running backs, Vaughn and Gray aren't bad selections. Again, it's short depth charts on both of them.
Yeah, and Vaughn's a fun player. I mean, we've all seen the training camp videos now of him looking like a bring your kid to work day.
The extra padding that the linemen and position players wear on the helmets now just make the proportions look so ridiculous.
It's like human bobbleheads.
And I feel bad for the guy, but man, does it look comical.
That's the concussion proofing.
Yeah, and hopefully it works.
So far, it has not. I already saw a couple guys go down with concussions in camp. Yeah. So I'm not sure that's working, but
certainly looks funny though.
NFL looks like they're trying. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all about the appearances, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. We're in the middle of the preseason at this point, and Big selected Tank Dell at 310, and he just had a heck of a showing in the first preseason game against New England, and I feel like Big might get upset if we didn't bring that up.
Yeah, Tank is another one of his guys. I'm sure he's excited about how that pick looks after week 1 of the preseason.
All right, so for round 4, we had the first pick from JMC at 401, Darnell Washington, the monster of a man at tight end. How do you feel about Washington?
Yeah, again, tight ends. I mean, everybody needs them, so it makes sense to take him at this point in the draft. I know last year we had quite a few late round tight end picks, and a lot of them hit. A lot of them are going to be starting for teams this year, so it makes sense to take your shots at this point. Washington's as good a shot as any. I mean, he's gigantic.
Yeah, we discussed it earlier before we started recording, but this year we had 7 tight ends go in rounds 4 and 5, and last year we also had 7 tight ends go in round 4 and 5. I'm just going to read off last year's tight ends because it's a pretty impressive looking class for rounds 4 and 5. Last year, Mel Crisp got Greg Dulcich at 402. I drafted Isaiah Likely at 406 and then Daniel Bellinger at 407. Then in the 5th round, I drafted Jake Ferguson at 502. Mr. Good News selected Cade Otton at 503. JMC selected Chig Okonkwo at 505. And Benign Rugg selected Jeremy Ruckert at, what spot is that? 506. So pretty impressive hit rate on late round tight ends last year.
Did you make that list just to brag? Because it sounded like you were just listing all of your amazing tight end selections late in the draft.
Let me just,
tight end whisperer.
To reiterate, that was Likely, Bellinger, and Ferguson in the 4th and 5th round of last year's draft.
All right, I'm definitely cutting this from the final recording.
Any NFL teams that are looking for a tight end scout, I am available.
Hey, you squeezed a career year out of Evan Ingram as well.
It had to happen sooner or later. So the other tight ends drafted in this year's draft, we had Washington at 401, Strange at 404, Higgins at 501, Latu at 503, Durham at 509, Kuntz at 510, and Wiley at 511. So another 7-pack of tight ends in the 4th and 5th. We'll see how this year's compares to last year's.
Yeah, again, I'm going to keep saying it. There are not enough good tight ends to go around. So continue taking as many as you can and hope for the best. There's a lot of there's a lot of really athletic tight ends this year. That's really what you're looking for. The guys that generally hit are on the upper end of the athleticism scale. And we had a lot of those in this class. It was a really good class to kind of load up on tight ends. And that was Flinch. He took another one. He took Strange in the 4th round to add to Kincaid and Schoonmaker. So I think he did well to load up there. And yeah, JMC's pick, he took a tight end. Your only pick in this draft, he took Payne Durham.
Yep.
So if you're only going to make one pick and it's going to be late, I guess you might as well take tight end, right?
Yep, that was the theory. We had quite a few different players taking tight ends as well. It wasn't just Flinch loaded up, like you said, but it wasn't just that. It was across the board. Everyone was looking to add at the position because, as you've reiterated time and time again, there's just not enough.
Yeah, everybody needs him. There's no one in this league that feels good about their tight end room enough to pass on available tight ends.
The other thing that stood out to me about the 4th and 5th rounds was we had a bunch of what looked to be backup quarterbacks go. We had Clayton Tune, Stetson Bennett, Aiden O'Connell, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Jake Haener. So we'll see how those guys pan out over the next couple of years as well.
Yeah, and again, at this point in the draft, the hit rate is so low. You're really just looking for any kind of
anyone who will stick on a roster.
Yeah, you're looking for anybody that has any path to fantasy relevance, right? Backup quarterback, it's a pretty good shot. I mean, you never know. They could fill in for injury and become the next Brock Purdy.
Yep. Most teams will only have 2 or 3 quarterbacks on the roster, so they're 1 or 2 hits away from being on the field and getting points. Mm-hmm. One other thing we want to highlight, Mr. Good News didn't make a pick until 4-11 where he got Puka Nacua, and then followed that up in the 5th round with Josh Wiley. 2 selections towards the end of the draft for a team who made the playoffs and who was the defending champion last year. Any thoughts on those selections?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to wait until this late in the draft to finally make your first couple of picks, these were quality selections. Puka Nacua's had a lot of camp hype. He landed again in a pretty barren depth chart outside of Kupp and Van Jefferson. There's room for someone else to kind of emerge there, and Puka was actually a pretty fun watch on film. He was explosive tackle breaker in that BYU offense. They used him a lot, similar in this kind of what we call now the Debo role, right, where they give him a lot of carries, touches out of the backfield. He was a little bit more downfield than you typically see in those kind of players, but he was very good after the catch.
Yep. And what about Wiley?
He was part of a committee in Cincinnati.
I know it's massive, but that's all I can remember.
Yeah, they used 2 tight ends pretty frequently. It was Wiley and then another guy that they kind of used him interchangeably. It kind of hid Wiley's talent. He was productive when he was out there, but they used this kind of tight end tandem, so he didn't get a ton of snaps. But he looked good when he was out there. Good athlete, good size. At this point in the draft, you're just trying to grasp at any straw you can. Any kind of athletic tight end that could potentially see playing time, we'll take him.
That about wraps up the 23 rookie draft. Out of 60 selections, 41 of them were not made by the original owner of the pick. I blame you for that, but everybody had a hand in trading. At least one pick from every owner was made by someone else. Flinch took 4 of his original, Criddle took 4 of his original, and Judd took 4 of his original. I don't believe anyone else had more than 2 of their original picks at the end of things.
Come on, we can do better. Next year, I want no original picks. I'm working on it. I'm getting as many 24 picks as I can, and then trading them to other teams. I'm doing my part. Are you? Outside of the school.
The only good bug is the dead bug. The only good pick is a traded pick.
The only good pick is a traded pick.
All right. Any final thoughts before we close down the rookie draft section?
No.
we can call the rookie draft there. You can go take care of whatever it is happening in your house right now.
Just utter chaos at all times.
All you guys ever do is sit around the coffee shop talking, sit around Jerry's apartment talking. Frankly, I don't know how you can stand it.